Imagine if you had a secret code for making money.
A code that certain investment titans have quietly exploited to amass billions.
And what if this code could be used by you today to unlock vast amounts of wealth safely and ethically?
In this brief video, you'll discover the often forgotten principles of wealth creation embedded in Scripture, a system applied by some of the most successful people in history.
What's more, you'll discover how you can use this code in your own life to get out of debt, make sound investments, and morally build substantial wealth for your family and your community.
And it starts with one small, life-changing step you can take today.
As you might guess, the Bible's money code isn't about getting rich quick.
But perhaps more shocking, the money code isn't about playing it safe either.
In this video, investment expert and former pastor Sean Hyman guides you through the confusing attitudes people have towards money and wealth, and helps you understand what the Bible actually says about the proper use of the resources we have been given.
Sean actually used this money code to go from making $15,000 a year to now giving away up to $50,000 per year.
It's the same code he used to help his father turn a $40,000 retirement account into $396,000.
And it's the same code he used to help a friend turn $2,000 into $10,000 in the matter of about a year.
We urge you to watch this presentation carefully.
Because we guarantee the biblical principles you'll discover, or perhaps rediscover, will change your life.
And at the end of the presentation, you'll get some specific practical investment recommendations that you can put into practice immediately. And now, here's Sean Hyman.
Many people misquote the Bible when they say, money is the root of all evil. In his letter to Timothy, the Apostle Paul actually says, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. That's a huge difference in meaning, and the implications are immense. And that's because the love of money, perhaps more than anything else in this world, has led to family conflict, civil strife, and all-out wars. But money, well, money is neither good nor bad. It is simply a medium of exchange, a way people can do business with one another. In fact, God bestows money upon people as a blessing, and obviously, money and wealth can be used to do great things. It's how people go about getting money, and then how they use money after they've gotten it, that makes all the difference. Today I'm going to show you how to get more money and how to become wealthy in the right way, for the right reasons. I admit, it's not always the popular strategy. Case in point, I was actually mocked in a recent Bloomberg interview for using this strategy. However, had you followed my advice then, you would be sitting on 100% profits now. I will show you the video clip in a minute. It's quite entertaining. I will also reveal some powerful financial secrets, not just from the investment greats like Warren Buffett and John Templeton, but mainly from people you would never expect. I'm talking about the financial secrets of King Solomon, the Apostle Paul, and even Jesus of Nazareth. As a matter of fact, what you're about to discover will likely shock you in both its simplicity and its power. You will clearly see how the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil and how it has ravaged people both financially and morally. And you will also see an equally powerful evil that many people don't even know is consuming them and their wealth. A financial sin that not only keeps people from enjoying abundant fortunes, but also keeps them locked in a dangerous cycle of poverty. Odds are, many people listening right now already have fallen victim to this financial sin because it looks so innocent from the outside. But you also find out how to make great fortunes through safe, proven, and ethical strategies that anyone can use, no matter their investment knowledge, their net worth, or their faith. Before we dive in, you should know a bit more about me, as my path to prosperity is about as unusual as this presentation. My name is Sean Hyman. I've been an active financial researcher, advisor, and investor for the better part of my 3-decade career. You may be one of the millions who have seen my market commentaries on major financial networks like CNBC, Bloomberg, Fox Business News, and many other media outlets. I've even teamed up with people like Steve Forbes throughout my career to help Main Street Americans protect and grow their wealth. I've taught thousands of investors around the world how to trade the complicated foreign currency markets during my tenure with the NYSE-listed Forex commission merchant, FXCM. And currently, more than 57,000 people turn to me every week for powerful investment returns through my financial advisory newsletter called The Ultimate Wealth Report. Needless to say, I've been very blessed with an amazing career in the financial markets. But truth be told, I'm just an ordinary guy from Dallas helping ordinary folks around America achieve extraordinary wealth. You see, none of this came about because I had an in on Wall Street or an Ivy League education in finance. As a matter of fact, my only type of formal education after high school is a degree from a Bible college. So how does someone go from being a pastor making $15,000 a year to annually giving away up to $50,000, more money than the average household makes in a year? Yes, you heard that right. I've been able to give away more money than the average household makes in a year, as much as $50,000. And I say that with humility. It is truly a blessing to bless others. So how do you go from making $15,000 a year to making millions of dollars without an advanced degree in finance? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to show you today. I'm going to show you how my life was radically changed when I began to apply some ancient biblical principles regarding money in my own life. Once I discovered and actually began to use these principles, I was able to help my father take his retirement nest egg from only $40,000 to $396,000, a tenfold increase. You think that extra money came in handy as he approached his retirement? You better believe it did. Strangely enough, it all had to do with establishing a righteous relationship with money and to unlove it so I could become more prosperous than I ever imagined. But remember, it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. And this can be clearly seen as our financial system has been ravaged by a series of bursting bubbles over the past 15 years. Now, money itself wasn't the cause of any of these bubbles, it was the love of money. For example, in the tech wreck in the late 1990s, it was the love of money that caused people to invest in worthless companies purely on the hype and hope that they would be instant millionaires. And during the real estate bubble, it was the love of money that caused lenders to loan ridiculously cheap cash to consumers bent on buying 3 or 4 extra homes for speculation with little to no money down. Even today, money is rapidly flowing through the financial system, looking to expand another market and create another bubble, and the love of money cycle will continue as it always has. The problem is this: millions of people have been seriously hurt in the process, and it's not just the past 15 years. History has proven time and again that the love of money is a cancerous evil that can destroy anything that gets in its path. So on one hand, money can give you the freedom and peace of mind. It can easily change your life for the better, along with those you choose to bless with your money. But in a flash, it can also destroy your life, especially if you allow the love of money to come in and lead you blindly into wealth-stealing investments or into the fear and greed market cycles that have left many people destitute, all because they didn't look well into the matter. Here's what I mean. I love to read the book of Proverbs, most of which is attributed to the writings of King Solomon. Some have said that King Solomon's wealth, if he were living today, would have made him the equivalent of a trillionaire, and the ancient wisdom he used to become the richest man who ever lived still holds true. In chapter 14 of Proverbs, we are given solid advice. It says, "The naive believe everything, but a wise man looks well into a matter." That's what we have to do to avoid falling in love with money. We have to look well into the matter of investing. It sounds so simple at first, I know. In fact, there are several ways to phrase this. Hundreds of other biblical verses, thousands of phrases from great iconic investors, and millions of other technical terms defined by Wall Street. However, it really is this simple. Look well into your investments. But this is one of those things that is easy to say, yet very hard to implement, because looking well into the matter involves study, homework, countless hours of research, and risking real money in trial and error tests. But don't worry, I'm going to reveal my simple blueprint to you in a moment. My blueprint that does all this work for you so that you can start making safe profits immediately. This blueprint will use biblical-based guidelines, a code of sorts, from King Solomon, the Apostle Paul, and even Jesus of Nazareth, to help us look well into the matter of investing so you can avoid get-rich schemes that can snare even the most successful people. It's harder than you may think. And instead, use a simple trick to purchase stocks at a 50% discount. Completely sidestep a debilitating financial sin that blinds many and could be costing you up to 41% of your life savings at this very moment. See firsthand how certain great biblical-minded investors like Sir John Templeton and Warren Buffett were able to avoid the love of money to become extremely wealthy, reaping in profits of 400%, and more important, extremely giving. Access the 12-12-12 plan for investing, the same plan that helped me grow my father's retirement account from $40,000 into $396,000. Find out how you could easily give away more money than the average person makes in a year. And then, I will share my triple-pronged investment system with you so that you could be in the position to make 30%, 40%, and even 100% over the next 6 to 9 months. Anyone can use this system. It doesn't matter if you're a novice investor or an experienced trader, have a net worth of $10 million, or are struggling to pay your bills. My system is simple, quick to implement, and a heck of a lot of fun. Also, for those who are new to investing, at the end of this presentation, you can claim a free copy of my Investing 101 guide, along with a special offer I've never made before. Best of all, you'll be making money from the word go. I'm not kidding. One position I recently shared with my 57,000 readers of the Ultimate Wealth Report jumped as high as 40% in just a few short months. But don't just take my word for it. Listen to what a few folks have told me after watching my videos and following my specific advice.
My investment is up 10.2% in 7 days. I can't wait until your next recommendation. I think the Ultimate Wealth Report is 10 times better than the other investment reports that I receive currently.
In less than 6 weeks, I have seen gains of between 10 to 12%.
And with rocket starts like these, it just gets better and better as you look well into your investments.
I'm up to 8%, 9.8%, and 16.7%. I'm very profitable and looking forward to taking the next position.
Notice that these returns aren't 1,000% or 10,000%. Profits like that don't exist in the real world. No, we aim for conservative plays that pay safe, reliable returns for real wealth. Now, I don't want to mislead you. There's no way to completely eliminate risk when it comes to investing, but we can try to mitigate it as much as possible through my three-pronged system for investing. And these types of returns are just the start. You see, after you get a handle on the abundance that will come from looking well into your investments, I'm going to briefly show you what you can do with all the extra cash coming your way. And trust me, it's a lot more than just money for vacations, golf club memberships, and being able to retire earlier than you ever dreamed. These are fine, and frankly, I'm all for them. But what I'm talking about is a blessing of practical wealth that goes far beyond your own needs or even your wants. I'm talking about the kind of wealth that takes you from being a saver to an investor to a philanthropist. And it starts with one small life-changing step you can take today. And it doesn't matter if you're new to investing or if you're a seasoned veteran. For example, here are some letters I've received from just a few people across America who are new to investing but found guidance as members of my Ultimate Wealth Report.
Your monthly reports have been a gift from God for me, as I was really clueless on how to get started actively managing my money.
Now Larry is off to the races when it comes to controlling his financial destiny, and he's not alone.
I wanted to be in control of my investments. Your report has given me concise information and the insight to make good investment choices.
I'm in the black so far, and having someone with your knowledge do the homework and share it keeps me from wondering if I've covered all the bases. Thanks for the help.
And as you'll see today, the only thing I did to go from making $15,000 a year to making millions was to apply some simple, proven biblical truths. Truths that are available to anyone who's willing to look well into the matter of investing. And that's exactly what I did. I began to teach myself the skills of investing. I spent hours and hours reading books, honing my talents, finding mentors, and asking them a lot of questions. Over time, I was able to develop a triple-pronged proprietary system for identifying solid investments so I could avoid the love of money and focus on a strategic approach to achieving profits. As a result, I've been fortunate to meet with members of the UK Parliament, financiers, and investors like Steve Forbes and many other powerful people in the public and private sectors. And it was all because I looked well into the matter. I kept asking questions and I kept learning. And that's why this presentation is so vital to your financial future. It's because I've been asking financial questions all throughout my career. And during the next few minutes, I'm going to give you the answers that you can use right now to make massive amounts of money the right way and for the right reasons. The insights you'll get today can help you go from a little money or even a decent amount of money to more money than you could ever need. So much so that you can afford to give it away just because you want to. Just because you want to bless a friend, help a family member, a colleague, or even a stranger. I'll get to that shortly. But before I get too far along, it's very important to make it clear that becoming a wealthy investor and trader has never stopped me from ministering to the needs of others. I've never let my career in finance take priority over God and family. As a matter of fact, my financial career has given me more time and freedom to serve. Even though I'm not paid to be a full-time pastor, my heart for ministry has never stopped. My wife Lisa and I are still faithful in our local church, attending 2 to 3 times a week, and we hold a monthly small group Bible study in our home here in Dallas, and I also help lead a men's Bible study every Thursday night. My faith provides a firm foundation and an internal compass that influences my investment style. But you don't have to be a person of faith to benefit from the kind of wealth creation that has radically changed my life, the lives of my students, and the 57,000 readers of the Ultimate Wealth Report. As a matter of fact, the tried and true biblical investment wisdom you'll discover over the next few minutes has been proven for more than 2,000 years. Wisdom used to build massive fortunes by such historical figures as King Solomon, and even the modern greats of investing like the late Sir John Templeton and Warren Buffett. So let's get started with a question that might make you feel a bit uncomfortable. Do you love money? Now think about that for a minute. We know that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And if you want to get honest about this question, you need to find out if the love of money is driving your finances and keeping you from amassing wealth the right way and for the right reasons. To start, you need a clear understanding on the meaning of the word love as it was originally written in this passage. In the ancient Greek language, there were many words for love, and it doesn't translate easily into what we think as love today. The specific term used here is philagoria, which means greed for wealth or material gain. The bottom line is that greed, and extreme disproportionate love for money and wealth, is unquestionably the root of all kinds of evil. Just look at how the love of money and greed nearly destroyed the entire U.S. financial system through a rolling series of bursting bubbles. Take the collapse of the dot-com bubble from the late 1990s. You may remember the term irrational exuberance. It was coined by Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan as he described the frenzy and greed investors felt at the height of the stock market. This frenzy and greed led ordinary people to take enormous risks for bigger and bigger gains, even though the market fundamentals were crumbling right underneath them. Remember Pets.com and the talking sock puppet mascot? They used their sock puppet in multi-million-dollar Super Bowl ads and as a balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. The sock puppet became an instant internet rock star. But what you probably don't remember is that the company raised $82.5 million in their high-profile initial public offering from Wall Street banks, pension funds, and people just like you, only to collapse 9 months later. During the bust, even strong tech giants like Cisco Systems saw their stock price drop by 86%. And it took Amazon.com, one of the few success stories of the dot-com era, nearly a decade to recover after their stock went from $107 to $7 within a year. Of course, it's easy to point fingers at the masses who were sucked in by the Wall Street greed machine, but frankly, the love of money is an insidious foe, and it can take down anyone at any time if they aren't careful, even the wisest and most successful people. For example, look at what happened to billion-dollar business builder Stephen K. Scott. As the founder of American Telecast Corporation, Scott built over 20 companies generating more than $3.3 billion in sales. Starting with a small $5,000 marketing budget, his first venture ended up making $1 million per week just 9 months after its launch. Talk about being successful. But with all the hype of Wall Street riches during the technology boom, this savvy businessman was lured in just like everyone else. In 1993, a friend introduced Scott to a billionaire who was funding a new company with revolutionary technology, so Scott invested $2.5 million. In 1998, another friend said his company was about to go public, so Scott made a $3 million investment with his friend. And in 2000, his cousin introduced him to a stock trading whiz who turned $5,000 into $14 million, so Scott cut a check for $2 million for the whiz kid. All told, Scott invested $7.5 million, and just 6 years later, all three of his investments had a combined value of $200,000. He lost 97% of his money. Why? Because he failed to look well into the matter of his investments. The love of money blinded him. He trusted the wrong people who got him into these investments. It was only after these massive losses that he woke up to the reality of King Solomon's wisdom of looking well into the matter. He needed to use the same skill and diligence he implemented for his own businesses towards his investing. If not, he might as well burn his money in the fireplace. At least he'd keep warm as it all went up in smoke. Now let me ask you, if the love of money could blind a skilled businessman like Stephen K. Scott, don't you think it could blind you as well? All in all, more than $8 trillion of wealth was wiped out during the dot-com collapse as millions of people, poor and rich alike, fell prey to the love of money. Any way you look at it, that's more than $8 trillion of all kinds of evil. You would think that with these kinds of losses, people would have been cured of their love of money ways. But that's hardly the case. The love of money continued to lure ordinary people toward the lie of easy riches and far away from true wealth. You see, when the money in stocks ran out, the love of money just shifted to the housing market. But this time, investors had some help with both Washington and Wall Street. Let me explain. In order to keep the economy from falling into recession, the Federal Reserve kept interest rates near all-time lows, and this made it easy for Wall Street banks to get their hands on new, cheap money. And with money so cheap, it only took about 18 months for the financial system to roar back to life after the stock market collapse. Banks started doling cash out like aspirin on the day after the New Year's Eve party. Anyone with a financial hangover could get pain relief in the form of cheap money. And when you love money, it's even easier to love cheap money. As a result, from 2001 to 2005, home prices jumped over 40%. People started grabbing more and more cheap money from the banks, buying one more house, or two, or three, or more. Speculation was everywhere as the love of money ran rampant. From Orlando to Las Vegas to San Francisco to New York City, investors were camping outside housing developments to snap up multiple units at a time. But that's not all. Individual people were only part of the $14 trillion real estate crash. That's because bankers let the love of money run rampant in their hearts as well. Bankers took all the mortgages investors promised to pay for, and they repackaged and sold them to pension funds, insurance companies, and other big investors looking for a guaranteed rate of return. Of course, these guaranteed returns were from the same individual investors who had no ability to pay off their cheap money loans. But when prices finally peaked, everyone was hurt in the subsequent crash. Innocent people who never participated in this chase for riches were hit hard. In fact, oftentimes they were hit the hardest. Overnight, families were displaced and jobs were lost as the entire financial house of cards began to collapse. Retirement dreams were shattered, college funds evaporated, and families found themselves starting all over again. And all because the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. In just a moment, I'm going to reveal to you my simple biblical system to sidestep this type of love of money so that you can pocket safe, secure profits on a regular basis. Yes, the same system that helped my father turn $40,000 into $396,000 and allow me to go from making $15,000 a year to giving away up to $50,000 a year. But let me pause for a moment, because you might be thinking, well, I don't love money. I never got caught up in the dot-com bubble. I never speculated in real estate. I put my money in safe places. I'm one of the good guys. Well, there is one more thing you need to keep in mind, and you're not going to like it. Odds are you may have already fallen victim to this financial sin at some point or another, so please listen closely. You already know the love of money leads to the greed that runs rampant through the markets. But you can't neglect the other side of the love coin, and that's the love of money that is so strong you don't dare risk losing a single penny of it. Here's what I mean. While the love of money can make people risk everything to get more of it, that same love can cause others to literally stuff their money under their mattresses or hide it in a bank account and stay on the sidelines. Instead of investing money to get rich quick, these people stay away from investing altogether. And frankly, these people are no different than those who risk everything out of the love of money. Both actions are wicked. If I have offended you, please don't blame me. I didn't say that. Jesus of Nazareth did. Yes, the carpenter from Nazareth was a shrewd businessman. Based on the gritty details in his parables, these are biblical teachings. In fact, if you take into account all the parables Jesus spoke, about 40 in all, over 50% were tied to money and wealth. Just look at his parable of the talents recorded in the 25th chapter of the book of Matthew. The parable speaks of a master who is about to go on a journey. Keep in mind, his journey wasn't a road trip to Disney. It was likely a business trip that took several years. But before he left, he called his servants in and gave them each talents, a form of money. It's important to note that a talent was a tremendous amount of money, about 20 years of wages. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2 talents, and to another servant 1 talent. Each one was given an amount according to his ability. After this, the master went on his journey. Immediately, the one who received the 5 talents went and traded with them and gained 5 more talents. The one who had received the 2 talents did the same and gained 2 more. But the servant who received 1 talent went away, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money out of fear of losing it. After the master returned home from his journey, he called his servants in to give an account, and each servant told the master what he had done. The one given 5 talents turned his into 5 more, and the one with 2 talents turned his into 2 more. The master told each of these servants, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things, I'll put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness." So not only did the first 2 servants increase what they were given originally, the master gave them even more wealth, more blessing. But the last servant only returned to the master what he was given. He told his master, "I knew you to be a hard man. You reaped where you hadn't sown, and you gathered where you didn't scatter seed, and I was afraid. So I went and hid your talent in the ground. See, you can have it back. It's yours." But the master shot back, "You wicked, lazy servant. You knew I reaped where I didn't sow and gathered where I didn't scatter seed. You could have at least put my money in the bank, and I would have gotten my money back with interest." Then the master took his talent and gave it to the first servant and said, "To everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance." And then he ordered that the wicked servant be cast out from their presence. It sounds pretty harsh, doesn't it? I mean, the master at least got back the 1 talent he gave the servant. So where's the harm? The harm came from all the potential that was squandered by the fearful servant. Let's take a moment to put this into perspective. Again, a talent is worth about 20 years of wages. Today, the U.S. median household income is slightly more than $50,000 a year. So 1 talent would be worth about $1 million, and 5 talents would be worth a whopping $5 million. We're talking a lot of money here. Money to be invested, money to be risked, money to be put to work. There are 2 other quick things I want to point out about this parable. First, the master says, "I reaped where I didn't sow and gathered where I didn't scatter seed." In other words, this man was aggressive when it came to his investments, yet clearly he had been successful from looking well into the matter. Second, the master gave to each servant according to his ability. And remember, the one with the most ability got the most talents, about $5 million worth. So my question for you is this: is your love for money paradoxically holding you back from doing great things? Have you stashed away your wealth, buried your talent in the ground, whether it's $1,000 or $100 million? Has the love of money and the fear of loss so taken hold that you refuse to step out, look well into the matter of investing, and do what's needed to increase your wealth? To grow your talents and resources so that you can bless others? These are painful but honest questions. To be candid, this form of love of money is actually more dangerous than you think. You may believe you're playing it safe or doing the right thing, but the fact is, playing it safe can be extremely perilous. And here's why. Every single day, 365 days a year, every dollar you have is changing in value. You see, most people don't realize that in just the last 20 years alone, the value of $1 has been reduced to about 61 cents, and it's all because of the wealth-destroying power of inflation. Look at it like this. Let's say a man stuffs $10,000 under his mattress on New Year's Day in 1993 just to save a bit of extra money for little Johnny's college fund. If he pulled that money out today and gave it to little Johnny as he went off to school, little Johnny would have about $6,100 in buying power. His father simply threw away $3,900. But had this man taken that $10,000 in 1993 and placed it in the stock market, little Johnny's investment would have risen to $21,766 or $11,511 in buying power. Not a ton of money, but a heck of a lot more than $6,100 in buying power. And had this father used my biblical system for investing, I'm confident it would be much higher than that based on what I've been able to do for others. Frankly, the wealth-stealing power of inflation is only going to get worse in the months and years ahead. That's because the Federal Reserve is printing 1,967,592 new U.S. dollars, get this, every minute. Now, I want to put that in perspective real quick. If you stacked 1,967,592 single dollar bills on top of each other the flat way, you would have a 600-foot tall stack of dollar bills, or roughly half the height of the Sears Tower in Chicago. And that's being printed every minute. Keep in mind, these are new dollars. These numbers do not include those dollars being printed to replace dollars that have fallen apart because of wear and tear. That's a lot of money. And with more dollar bills being printed, the value of your dollars will continue to drop and consumer prices will shoot even higher. The fact is, inflation is very real, and that's precisely why it's more important than ever to look well into where you're putting your money. In a moment, I will reveal my biblical system for achieving great wealth, for turning every $40,000 into $396,000, and a system that could easily take you from making $15,000 a year to giving away more than the average person makes in a year. And you will hear from real people, just like you, who have followed this biblical money code to achieve prosperity along with gaining a peace of mind about their financial investments. But first I want to show you examples of investment titans who have also followed Paul's wisdom to avoid the love of money, Solomon's rule of looking well into the matter, and Jesus' advice to not bury our talents. So let's examine two of those investment titans now, along with one of my own experiences on Bloomberg TV, and afterwards I will share with you my biblical system for investing. What's really interesting about both of these investment titans is that neither of them stuck around Wall Street for their financial wisdom. I mean, Warren Buffett made his home in Omaha, Nebraska. Sir John Templeton made his home in Lyford Cay, Bahamas. Why? Because they didn't want to get caught up with the crowd and fall prey to the frenzied love of money that consumes Wall Street. They wanted to position themselves away from the noise where they could think clearly and look well into every investment they made, and both of them became enormously wealthy because of this. Take Warren Buffett. He is the fourth richest person in the world, with a net worth of $53 billion, and he did this by doing the opposite of what most investors do. During the tech boom of the late 1990s, Buffett was practically lambasted for not buying tech stocks, but he would not be moved by a greedy market. In fact, he famously said, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful." In other words, when everyone is jumping into an investment, be cautious. It could be too good to be true. And when everyone is running away from an investment, look well into the matter because it might be time to buy. So in the late 1990s, Buffett avoided the tech stocks like the plague, and as a result, did just fine when the market collapsed in 2000. He was fearful when others were greedy. And in 2009, when the stock market plummeted, Buffett was buying stocks with two hands. All in all, Buffett had invested 88% of all his available cash in reliable companies, despite everyone running for the door. He was greedy, He looked well into the matter when others were fearful. As a result, since 1996, Buffett's returns amount to over 400%, while the stock market has gone up a total of about 150%. You see, it's this kind of confidence that brings real wealth. It's the ability to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are standing on solid ground when you step into an investment. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how you can have this kind of confidence every time you put your money to work by revealing my biblical code for investing. In fact, one of my recent issues of Ultimate Wealth Report is titled, Hunting for Value, How to Get a Better Deal Than Warren Buffett. In it, I detail how you can buy stocks for 50% off the retail price, and I would love to get these into your hands real soon. But before I do, let's not forget the late Sir John Templeton. Sir John once wrote that he really didn't start thinking of himself as an investor until he got out of the Wall Street culture where all the same analysts go to all the same meetings, the same conferences, hearing the same message. No, Sir John was looking to keep his mind clear of all the Wall Street clutter so he could look well into every investment. In fact, he took this search for clarity one step further with his faith when he said, "If you begin with prayer, you will think more clearly and make fewer mistakes." And frankly, it worked. He made fewer mistakes than other investors who let the love of money rule their decisions. And he also put himself in a position to step into the markets when everyone else was running for the exits. He famously said, "The time of maximum pessimism is the best time to buy, and the time of maximum optimism is the best time to sell." And he proved it over and over again. During the Depression of the 1930s, Sir John bought 100 shares of every publicly listed company, selling for less than $1. He quickly turned $10,000 into $40,000, and he ended up making money hand over fist as American industry took off again. By not following the crowd and by ridding himself of Wall Street's seductive influence, Sir John was able to amass billions. And while many remember him for his investment prowess, it's his philanthropy that has an even greater legacy. Sir John founded the Templeton Prize, which to this day has more purse money than the Nobel Prize. And even more impressive is Warren Buffett, who has made a commitment to give away 85% of his wealth. And one more very important thing to note. Templeton and Buffett invested in solid companies that made great products. As a result, businesses could expand, people were hired, and the economy grew. They never buried their talents, and consequently, millions of people benefited. And to think all their wealth came from being wise investors who didn't love money and always looked well into the matter, which is exactly what you'll find out how to do today. You see, investing is only risky when you throw money into the market blindly, when you follow the crowd, popular opinion, or even the mainstream financial media. And that's because they are usually wrong. Let me show you by using an example of my own personal experience. In late 2012, I was actually mocked on Bloomberg television when I made an unpopular prediction on the company Best Buy. Just listen to these clips from the interview.
Sean Hyman, you've been watching it. It's been so beaten down. Is it so beaten down that it can only get better from here, especially with a new CEO?
Well, it has been in a downtrend for the last 6 years, so the trader would say the trend is your friend, and they would short on rallies. However, the Best Buy investor, of course, can take another approach and say, well, it has been down for 6 years. It is approaching the 2008-2009 lows at around $16 to $18 a share. And so therefore they could start nibbling away if they had a 2-year time horizon. Should it slip through that support, then it might slip as low as 10 or 11. So I think it's very appealing to the investor at this point to start nibbling away, and I believe Best Buy could bounce to about 25, 28 within about a few months after it starts turning, and then about 18 months afterwards we could be up double to about 40.
Wow. Wow.
There was another expert on the show who laughed at my predictions. Here's his reaction.
Best Buy is just a showroom, and the only hope they have for them is private equity. $40 on Best Buy? I mean, if that's the case, Apple's going to $1,500. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
Soon after, Best Buy dropped down to $11 and then bounced up to $25 per share, just like I predicted. Eventually, it will go up to $40. It just may take several months to get there. Ironically, the other gentleman on the show said that if my predictions came true, Apple would go up to $1,500 per share. Wouldn't you know it, Apple stock actually dropped from $705 down to as low as $400. So why was I right while he was way off? Now, before you think it's just luck, here's one more quick example from a few weeks later when I made another bold prediction. On February 4th, 2013, I was invited to be on Fox Business's Willis Report to discuss the market sell-off that sent the Dow below 14,000 points. Here's my conversation with Jerry Willis.
All right, Sean, what happened? Why did we blow up? We were doing so well there for a while.
Well, you get people that get the jitters when you come back to old highs. These were old highs since 2007. Companies have a little more cash now. They've earned some more money now. Their payrolls are a little tighter, so they can afford really to take the market higher. So I do believe that ultimately the market heads higher. The Dow could go to 15,000, 15,500 fairly easily, but we'll probably see a pullback. Jerry Willis was shocked by my prediction and said she would hold me to it. Wouldn't you know it, about 3 months later, after the market dipped a bit, the Dow went above 15,000. So, why was I right, while many were so way off? It's simple, actually. I looked well into the matter and have a proven system based on unshakable biblical principles that allows me to do this over and over again. And you're going to find out how you can do the same right now. You're going to gain a perspective that most miss because they are blinded by the love of money. However, there may be a few of you who are still thinking that you don't have the ability to invest nor the resources. If that's the case, I want to be the person to help you get that ability to increase your wealth. In fact, you are moments away from receiving everything you need to be a faithful steward of all the money you've already been given. But perhaps you don't think you're all that wealthy. However, let me tell you that's not true. If you have any money saved, a hobby that requires some equipment or supplies, a variety of clothes in your closet, 2 cars in any condition, and live in your own home, you are in the top 5% of the world's wealthy. And if you earn more than $50,000 annually, you're in the top 1% of the world's income earners. You already are the 1%. Today I will show you how to multiply what you've already been given so that you have more than enough and can even bless others with your abundance. Again, I'm going to show you how to go from being a saver to an investor to a philanthropist. And although I'm not going to delve into this too much today, it's important to note that when you start giving your money, no matter your financial status, you will be blessed. There are hundreds of verses from Scripture to support this, but one of my favorites comes from Malachi 3:10, which says, "Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, so that there will be food in my house, and test me now in this, says the Lord of hosts, if I will not open for you the windows of heaven and pour out for you a blessing until it overflows." It's simple. When you bless others, God will bless you, and I'm living proof of it. As I mentioned earlier, I went from making around $15,000 a year to annually giving away more money than the average person makes in a year, up to $50,000. And I even helped my father grow his $40,000 retirement account to $396,000. I also helped a friend turn her $2,000 account into $10,000 within a year, and I'm currently helping out 57,000 additional people through my Ultimate Wealth Report newsletter. So I know for certain I can help you multiply your money as well. Trust me, anyone can increase their ability. It's the one thing you can control. And what I'm about to show you will help you increase your ability for investing by leaps and bounds. The bottom line is, if you increase your ability, you will increase your wealth, and you will be able to bless others. It's that simple. With this biblical system, this code, I'm confident that you could go from wherever you are at this point financially to annually giving away more money than the average person makes in a year. My proven system is triple-pronged, and I will explain each prong to you right now. However, a slight warning, if you are new to investing, some of this may go over your head. If that's the case, you don't need to worry. Remember, I have a special gift for those of you who are new to investing. It's my Investing 101 guide, and you can get a copy of it at the end of this presentation, so you don't have to understand everything I'm stating. It's like when the doctor tells you to take a prescription to get over your cold. You don't need to understand everything about how the prescription works, but it sure does make you feel good to know your doctor has gone through a lot of schooling and training to prescribe the right medicine for you, and that he has cured thousands of other patients. So again, this biblical system may go over your head for now, but have no worries. You don't need to understand everything. Okay, so the first prong is fundamental analysis, the second is technical analysis, and the third, when it presents itself, is sentiment analysis. Let me explain each prong. I first look at fundamental analysis, and that's because I want to make sure that no matter how glamorous the company is, how much I might like the product myself, or how many experts think it's an awesome company, I need to know that it has a strong foundation. It's just like Jesus says in Luke 6:48. He's like a man who built a house. He dug deep to put the building on rock. When the water came up and the river beat against the house, the building cannot be shaken because it was built on rock. The companies I look at, well, they need to have a solid foundation to be able to survive many economic storms. So I'm looking for companies that I would want to own every share of if I could. It's the Warren Buffett mentality that no matter how many shares you buy, as an investor, you need to think and act as if you're buying 100% of the company. If you were doing this, you'd want to know, is the business run well? Is the management team solid? Do they have a large sales pipeline? Are customers happy and sales increasing? Does the company have a lot of debt? Do they have enough cash in the bank to execute their business model? You also want the company to have a big market capitalization with plenty of volume and liquidity in the stock. Another big question is price. Is the company worth the stock price you're about to pay for it? You want a fundamental value that is cheap, where the price-to-book value and price-to-earnings are low. These are the fundamental questions that lay the foundation for any good investment. And one of the reasons for laying this foundation is so that you don't get trapped by fear or greed. And if the concept of buying a stock frightens you, don't worry. This system is still for you, even if you never purchased a stock before. As you'll see in a moment, you don't have to figure out how to do all this research on your own. I'll show you how you can look over my shoulder and snag my best stock picks without having to go it alone. I promise, it's extremely easy. But know this, stocks are going to continue to jolt up and down in the market. And even with all the analysis, one could see a stock pull back right after taking a position. But that doesn't mean it's a bad investment. When stocks lose value, it's when your faith in your ability to pick good investments starts to shake. And it's right here where you have to rehearse in your mind all the reasons why you decided to own part of the company in the first place. And by running down the checklist of all the fundamental analysis that you did before you invested, you'll see that you still have your money in a great company. You've looked well into a matter and you are standing on solid ground. And while other investors are being played by the love of money, running back and forth between fear and greed, you can focus on what's most important because you know you've got a good company. This fundamental base helps you stick through the up and down markets and short-term movements that shake out the less skilled investor. Let me give you a specific example of how this works. There's a company called CEMIG. This is a $10 billion Brazilian energy company that provides electricity to over 7 million people, about the same number of people you would find in the Dallas-Fort Worth metro area. Its price to earnings is insanely low at 4.6, with profit margins over 20%. They earned about $2.31 billion last year and are sitting on about $2 billion in cash. Not to mention they pay a healthy 5.1% dividend. Bottom line, this company is rock solid. So no matter how fickle the markets get, you know you're standing on firm ground. I mean, look at how CEMIG has performed over the last 2 years. Even though it has bounced around between $10 and $20, 100% variation, the fundamentals remain the same. It's still a rock-solid company that provides electricity to 7 million people and still pays a nice dividend. But fundamental analysis is only the first prong to look well into an investment. After all, why pay $20 for a sound company when you can pay $10 for it? So once the fundamentals are set, it's time to look at technical indicators that can enhance our success. Technical analysis helps me find the right time to buy. A stock that is fundamentally cheap today may actually become fundamentally cheaper tomorrow, or maybe even cheaper still next week. I've spent the better part of 3 decades boiling down more than 200 technical indicators into 3 indicators that are as predictable as the sunrise and sunset. They are so consistent that you can practically set your watch by them. These indicators include trend analysis, relative strength gauges, and moving averages, where I use long-term charts to zero in on how a stock price is trending and when it makes sense to move in. Let's look again at CEMIG. We already know it's a strong company, but now instead of just focusing on the stock's fundamentals, I've added a technical indicator called the Relative Strength Index, or RSI. This indicator tells me when a company has been oversold or overbought. And on a scale of 0 to 100, when the indicator is under 30, the stock is getting cheap as investors sell the stock, and when the RSI is over 80, it's getting pricey as too many buyers are buying the stock. In this chart, you can see that in late November, the RSI was under 30, which was the perfect time to buy in. You also see that a few days later, the stock jumped back up again, and although it has bounced around, it remains above our buy price. This means we got a great deal on this company because we bought at the right time. Whether it's cheap or expensive, the technical indicator RSI can show you exactly when to buy into a stock that you already know has strong fundamentals. This way you can squeeze every ounce of profit out of the position as you snatch up shares at the best possible price before it shoots even higher. But looking well into investment doesn't stop here. There's one more prong I like to use if I can get it, and that's sentiment analysis. Warren Buffett phrased this concept well. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. In other words, it's thinking outside of the box to find profits, and that's often buying companies that other people hate. When massive selling hits a stock that is fundamentally solid, I'm out there looking to scoop it up at a bargain. Of course, this is often in times of panic selling as investors are running for the exits. But that's the best time to grab great companies on the cheap, especially if you don't have the love of money or the fear of loss clouding your ability to look well into the opportunities at hand. And this is when I pay close attention to my sentiment charts for large volume spikes and steep declines. Basically, as the panic starts, most people who are not looking well into the matter sell quickly. They hear a headline on the news about the CEO getting fired or missing quarterly estimates by a few cents, and they panic. It may take a few weeks, sometimes a few months or so, but eventually all the knee-jerk sellers are gone, and the only people left holding the company are the people who looked well into the matter and understood the true value of the stock. That's when you find yourself in a position to grab phenomenal companies at unheard-of prices. This is what recently happened in CIG. Do you see that huge spike in volume that drove the stock down last September? In 1 week, the company traded 65 million shares as opposed to the normal 5 million average. This shows massive negative sentiment. Basically, investors gave up. They either couldn't handle the ups and downs in the stock, or they were tired of waiting for a quick profit. And once the selling started, other investors followed the sell-off like lemmings going over a cliff. But because I'd looked well into a matter, I knew this company was just as solid before and after the extreme selling. In volatile times like these, my triple-pronged system can mean the difference between being in the poorhouse or the penthouse when the market dust settles. So now you've seen two powerful truths in action, two pieces of age-old wisdom that can mean the difference between living in abundant wealth or abject poverty. First, you've seen how the love of money can derail anyone and leave them in the vicious boom and bust cycles of investing, whether in the form of an excessive greed for gain or an excessive greed to hoard it and bury it. Second, you've seen how the wise person looks well into an investment using fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and sentiment analysis. When you have a system in place, it allows you to keep your love of money in check and act wisely. You've also seen how I personally increased my skills and abilities, enough to take me from making around $15,000 a year as a pastor to annually giving away up to $50,000, more money than the average household makes in a year. And here's the best part. No matter where you are right now financially, if you're making $15,000 a year or $15,000 a week, or if you're preparing for retirement or already in retirement, if you're an investment novice or expert, I have a blueprint for you to follow and take control of your financial future. And this blueprint is simple to implement. I will do all the work for you, the fundamental, technical, and sentiment analysis to pick out the very best investments. And then I'll lay out every trade and every investment opportunity I see in the markets as a path